Great. So, hello and welcome to Prashansa Sharma. How is the Prashansa around Mirzapur? How are you taking it all in?
I'm very grateful to people appreciating my work and how it's being perceived, and that that there is truth to a character which people can resonate with.
Yeah. And someone who seems so marginal and peripheral, and yet has become has quite a following, right?
Yes, which is the most beautiful part about this character, right? Because she literally represents the marginalized, the sect of society that we don't look at and are so invisible, right,
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
everybody. And
And
to bring that character to light, and to be of value and to be of somebody with opinion and with thoughts and with uh, to show her more than just what has happened to her, I think
yeah.
is a beautiful opportunity that I have gotten.
So, when you actually accepted it, it mustn't have seemed that it would develop into this. So, talk a little about the arc of the character, and then I'd like to know a little more about you.
So when I got the character, my first of all, casting bay auditioned me, and they were really, really positive about this project. Nobody knew why, but they were. And I just had a gut feeling. Like I just had a gut feeling about this. I don't know. I don't know why I said yes. I remember having a conversation with Abhishek Banerjee and Anmol Ahuja from Casting Bay, and I said, "Do you guys think that I should do a character like this?" And they just both said that this is a good team. It's a good project. We don't know, but it's a good team. It's a great crew that you would be a part of. So we would say do it. Of course, it's up to you.
And
And
Abhishek himself had a bit role in
yeah,
season one, right?
so I remember he said, हाँ लग रहा है अच्छा होगा मैं तो कर रहा हूँ तुम भी कर लो um, and I'm glad I listened to them. I'm glad I it just out it was all gut feelings, and yeah, it just kind of happened like that. I had no expectations when I went in, but when I went in, I went very well prepared with the character's backstory, with who she is. I wanted to play her with a lot of dignity, respect, and honesty, and that's all I knew. And in fact, in season one, I was supposed to be killed off. Actually, we shot the scene
Really?
where Devendu kills me. And yeah, not many people know this, but uh, originally there were only, I think, three scenes or uh, five scenes written for me, and uh, I, I get killed, and
Why?
then
Just in a fit of rage as usual, or Devyendu being Devyendu? I mean,
uh,
Munna being Munna.
why was it not? Why didn't it?
So why were you killed?
How that I will not discuss. Just it was so gory, and it was so
Oh,
it was too much. And when Excel saw it and when Farhan saw it, he said, we can't put this scene in. It's too
oh,
much.
okay.
It's yeah, and I'm so glad that we've
So
shot the
Farhan
scene.
saved you.
He saved me. He absolutely saved me. And look at the sensibility. Like, look at the to be able to say no, we cannot put this scene in, because it's not right. Uh, and I'm so glad he did that, because then I got season two and I got that epic scene in the end where I get to kill Babuji with Beena.
Oof, that is, I think
Yeah.
it's still something that people will talk about for a while. That's
Yes. And
horrible.
I think it's such a special scene because it just it represents all that abuse and all that.
That rage and, yeah, it's just come out and
Yeah, and the fact that Radhiya goes and says, use this, it also suddenly represents this section of society which we think that they're just there to serve us, which is absolutely not true. They have, I mean, we have pain, like they have pain, like we have aspirations and dreams like they do. And I think that scene is a is a master stroke in film and television, because it suddenly represents so much that has not been spoken about. And I'm not saying
I
killing is the way, but I'm just saying that
I know.
in the
No, just
genre of
yeah.
the show, it gives justice to a character like that. And of course, there is no justice to a woman who's been abused. No matter what a woman after being, she will always feel it. But to be able to have that moment,
In fact, the most exciting thing for me about season three was the women. They finally
like
seem to be coming into their own, and they finally, all of them have their moments when uh, you can say, yes, they were seen and they're being seen. And I think that's very important. And for you as well, I think you also are developing, you also develop your own voice. So talk a
absolutely.
little about how
So
this
I call
season
season
sort of
three coming
worked
of
out.
agrage for Radhya.
Absolutely.
Uh,
That, yeah,
and
actually for Beena, for Madhuri, for everyone, but talk a bit about Radhya.
So of course, the women of Mirzapur in season three, they're very strong characters. They all have arcs, and it's so obvious to me, right? And it's so obvious to, I'm sure, to you too, Kaveri, because
Yeah.
we have our own arcs, and to be able to do that in Mirzapur, and that's why it's such a great show, because it allows your character to not just be like, I can talk about my character now. It could have been written in a way where she was just reduced to a victim, right? But the
Yeah.
second the killing scene was cut, and even when the killing scene was not cut, she did have opinions about the men in the house, how she felt about the abuse. And in season two and in season three now, you see her in a very different light, right? It's the first time you see my character not being abused. And then who is she? Like when the fear is gone of these men, who is she? And you see a beautiful, I see her as a little girl, she's like, she's so excited. And uh, I have seen in this household, I've seen Beena as a woman who is, always dressed very well, very smart, very manipulative, very calculated. And here comes Golu, who's the complete opposite. She has
Yes.
no makeup, she has short hair, she is wearing a shirt, she's so tiny, but Guddu Bhaiya is listening to her. And for
Yeah.
Radhiya, mind is blown, absolutely like flabbergasted. Like she's like, oh my God, like what is this? Are women like this? Can a woman be like this? No, no one touches her. She has bodyguards around her. People are ready to die for her. So for Radhya, her like mind, it's like me going to moon, or you going to moon, and she's just so mesmerized and so like just so excited by seeing this other kind of woman. She's never seen it before. Never, doesn't know what it's like when a woman is not using her sexuality,
Yeah.
you know, for power. And for a character who has been abused, who for her physical intimacy, the first contact to physical intimacy has been violence, right? So for a character to see that is also like a way out, like that I do not have to depend on my sexuality, right? I can be intelligent. I can, and she sees her read books, and you get to know. I don't know if you've seen the season or not, and it's absolutely fine if you haven't.
No, no,
But
I have, of
okay,
course. That's why I wanted to talk to you.
and you see that this there's Golu who has all these books, and then Radhya tells her, I've studied till metric, and I
Yeah.
like reading books. I like poetry, and there's a bond that surpasses class, that surpasses the the place she holds in the house because of literature and because of poetry, and Golu gives her books to read, and it's it's so beautiful that there are two women empowering Radhya in this season. One
Yeah,
is Golu, and the other is Beena,
yeah,
who's letting her just be. For the first
yeah,
time, Radhya can just be. And you see it in her body language, you see it in the way she talks, you see that she has opinions, and sometimes she knows things that these two women don't know. Like, she's like,
yeah,
this is how it happens. And she's telling them, and they're like, oh, okay. Uh, but really, she has come into her own in that sense. And in every episode, in fact, and this is something I have done with my character, where it's very subtle, but every episode I shed a layer of this old Radhya, and bring a new Radhya in of who she really is. So in one episode, the bindi is gone, and the bindi never comes back. In one episode, I start wearing
uh,
sports shoes, and then
right,
I realize that, oh, sports shoes are actually more comfortable than like all this I've been wearing. And
right.
my dupatta starts being worn in a different way. It's not to hide my body anymore. I'm not trying to put it and trying to
Cover
cloak
yourself.
myself. Yeah, and by the end I lose it. And if you've seen the post credit scene
Yeah,
where I go to Makbul, I'm reading a book, I'm reading poetry, and my hair is gone, uh, and she's completely transformed into a woman. And it's so beautiful that it's done by two women. It's
right.
her empowerment comes from women, not men. Men never
Yeah,
gave it to her, you
yeah,
know women did. And I think that is so beautiful, because in a lot of shows and films I see, it's always men empowering women, mostly.
yeah, exactly. They're the ones pushing the women ahead.
Yeah, but in Radhiya's
It
case,
was
it's
so
women.
subtle what you said, the way you described her shedding of the old Radhya. It's so subtle. It makes me want to watch watch it again and just to notice these a little more. But so beautiful that it blends so seamlessly into the show. It doesn't even, I mean, it doesn't jar, but it's there.
Right. I'm glad it translates like that. I was honestly, I was very scared and anxious of how Radhiya. I didn't know who she is, because I also went on an exploration with
Yeah.
Radhiya to explore who Radhiya is. So I didn't know. Like, when I wore a shirt over the kurti, I felt very odd. I was like, okay, like, and it felt odd as Radhya, and it felt odd as Prashansa. And the when you're so used to fear in this house, I see the walls. There are things I see in the house. There are lamps I see in the house, and I just feel fear. When I see that TV where Babuji used to sit and watch it, like, I just feel fear as Radhya. And I remember in season 1 and 2 also, when was playing Radhya, uh, there was just so much fear in my body that if somebody touched me from behind, else there was anything sudden, like my body would just, I could feel it, like my body would just jerk. Now it's not, I mean, the trauma is there, but those people are not there. So suddenly there is all this freedom. And she's just like, oh my God, it's like, it's opened up
That's
for her.
really that's really what I loved about the show. I was so happy to see these women running things and you know, I just wish it would continue like that. But I guess we'll
Yeah,
have
they
to
should make
see.
a show just driven by women of Mirzapur.
Yeah. But tell me a little about yourself now, Prashansa. Where are you from? Where did you study?
So my parents live in Jumri Talaya, Jharkhand, which
Oh,
is a
really?
very,
Chumri
yes,
Talaya?
it
As in,
exists. It exists, and I'm from there. And I make it
wow,
a point to tell people, so it's on the map and people know it exists. And
that it's not just something that we thought of a
I
fictional
know,
place in our
I
childhood.
know, absolutely,
How,
yes.
how are your parents there? What do they do?
My parents run a school.
Oh, how lovely. Please
Yeah.
talk a little about.
So I come from a very progressive, very education oriented, very free flowing parents. They're just really cool. And there's a perception about, like, oh, she's from such a small town, and But I come from a privileged background. I want to use it well, and I want to be able to say that I come from a privileged background, to be able to use my privilege in the right ways. And because I had such an empowered, independent, strong woman in the house, who's my mother, I was introduced to a lot of things at a very young age, like, for example, Indian classical music, literature, art. There was just so much of it. It was just everywhere around me. Dance, there was Bharatnatyam, all of these things. And then my mother made it a point to send me to boarding school, and I went to a Welham Girls School at the age of 9. And that's where I studied, and that's where I did my high school. And in Welham, I got more exposure to do theater, to do Bharatnatyam, Indian classical music,
Who's your
sports.
principal?
Who was my principal?
Yeah,
Jyotsna
at
Brar.
well, I think she's trained generations of women, and they really look up to her, right?
Yes, not in my case, but people do look up to her.
Did you have a contentious relationship with her?
Yes, I have mostly had. I think it's the problem with institutions
You
and
have a
uh,
problem with that.
and artists. I think, uh, and I think yes, I would say that. Vellum gave me a lot, and but also I just didn't fit into that to a box, and that can be very scary for people running an institution for those many years who believe in a certain lineage and how a is supposed to be. Just didn't fit in. Yeah. And I'm
So,
glad I did.
but you survived.
I survived very well. Oh, I survived beautifully. I did plays with Ratna Pathak. I was very rebellious in school, and I had yeah, I had beautiful teachers, and I had beautiful guys. Like I had teachers like Mrs. Chatterjee, who I still like love, and we still have this relationship that we share. And there was my Bharatnatyam teacher, and there was theater, and there was all these teachers who loved me. I remember Ratna coming to school, Ratna Pathak Shah, and I did a play with her called Jasma Odan, and it kind of opened up, like blew my mind. And I remember when I did the play, and I was just standing there after the play was over. I was just standing on stage, and I saw like my whole batch just run towards me to hug me, and I had no idea, right? Because I didn't know that like this is what theater is, or this is a profession, or this is. But I was the how I felt when I everyone hugged me and said you were so good. You were just all of these things, and I was just so mesmerized by the process of theater and being directed by somebody like Ratna Pathak Shah, who was just amazing, and to be
So she
able
was there
to
for a couple of weeks or a month, or she'd come
yeah,
in
she was
and
there.
visit.
She was there for a month. She did a joint
Wow,
production with Welham Boys School and Welham Girls School, and we did
how
Jasma Oda.
lovely.
And it was a theater masterclass every day. It was amazing. She was
Right.
really somebody who opened my eyes to this whole thing, and that I could do this. And even other people like Dadi Badamsi, like there were just beautiful artists coming to my school and doing these wonderful plays and wonderful performances with us. So I was introduced to it at a very early age, thanks to the school. And by then I had made up my mind, but I couldn't really openly say that out loud. So but I also loved reading, and I also loved uh, I was just curious about the world, so I studied philosophy at the Hindu College in Delhi University.
Right.
And I joined the theater society from day one and headed a theater
Right. If,
society.
if, Ibtida, right?
I joined mask. It was the English Theater Society.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. It's so strange how I do the most Hindi roles, uh, which is fine because I'm very comfortable in both languages. And my mother made sure that I remember even when I went to school, like a school like Welham Girls, where everyone just spoke in English, all English, English, English.
Exactly.
My mother made sure that my Hindi was spot on. Like it was just, she said, you will never lose the language that is ours, and those are your roots, and you
Yeah.
you must have great command over it. So really, she's worked a lot on language, and just I think her love for both languages is translated to me so beautifully. Yeah, and then I headed a theater society in Hindu college. I pretty much knew what I wanted to do, and then I came to Bombay and I started working behind the camera. I started doing did everything that came my way in terms of trying to get by in Bombay, and then I got a scholarship to study at the drama school Mumbai, where I did my formal theater training. It's where I was introduced to a lot of theater forms, and after that I started doing theater in Bombay. uh, then I got briefly a scholarship to study in Greece, where I studied ensemble theater. And
Wow.
after that, I went to Prague Film School to study acting for film, and that was my formal education in acting for film. And it comes from a place where when I studied theater and I studied these different theater forms, when I came across realism, it blew my mind because it was so internal, and I saw myself challenged internally, and there were these parts of myself I didn't want to see, and they were coming up, and it was so ugly and curious and beautiful, and like it was all of these things that were happening to me, and I said, what is this? Like, what is happening? Where I'm not doing much, but there is so much happening, and translating that is is a different ballgame altogether. And Prague Film School did that for me. But all this training and education gave me a lot of techniques, of course, but I think what it did more than that is open me up to vulnerability and to connection, and to be able to see the world in that lens and from that lens, and really live a life every day through that lens, not just when I'm on screen, but live a life of vulnerability, honesty, um, simplicity, and really explore who I am, and really explore people, and really see them. Because if you don't see people, how I just it just frustrates me where people think acting is such a external. It's about how you look, or it's about how beautiful you are, how hot you are. I feel it has nothing to do with that. I think it has so much to do
Absolutely.
with who you are inside. What do you carry? The darkness in you, the lightness in you, the beauty in you, the ugliness in you. And it's almost like the more you understand that within, the more empathy you have for people around you. People ask me,
Exactly.
how do you play characters with so much pain? I say, well, look around you. There is so much pain.
There is so much.
We just have to
That is
see it. I grew up in a household where there was help around me all the time. They cooked me food. They cleaned the house. They did so many things for me. And because I played Radhiya, I realized how ignorant I was. I always treated them well, but I was so invisible. Like their pain was so invisible to me.
exactly.
What they go through was so invisible to me. The violence they go through is not even talked about. Today, if you and I, if something happens, we can talk about it. Where do they
They
go? What
just
do they
think
do
it's
about it?
part of, they just think it's part of their life. They have to accept it.
Exactly. And that's why I feel that a character like Radhya really opens up these
I agree.
possibilities in them where this is wrong. It is wrong, whether it's happened to the help in the house or whether it's happened to the, like the,
The chief
not the will.
minister of the state.
Yeah, it is wrong. It is violence against women, and this is wrong. And this, if it creates awareness around people, then as an artist, I've done my job, you know.
But Prashansa, so you're coming back from Prague to Mumbai. I mean, when was that? And you were obviously a changed person. I mean, but you
Yes.
also knew the realities of the industry. I mean, it's not the best place for vulnerability.
Yes, it isn't.
You have to be as tough as nails to, be successful. And
Yeah,
yet you have to be vulnerable. Otherwise, how can you be an artist? It's the biggest contradiction.
it is the biggest contradiction, and I think we are all contradictions in ourselves, and I think we live in a world of contradictions, and it is hard sometimes. It is very hard, and instead of trying to block it out, I just accept it. I accept that it is difficult, it is hard, it is part of what I do, and I can't escape it. So I might as well face it. I give myself time to grieve every rejection. I give myself time to allow the hurt to move through my body. And then I wake up every day and I go and do it anyway.
But the rejections are hard, aren't they? Sometimes
Of
it must be
course,
you must be that close to getting a role and something happens. Someone else is cast or for reasons which make sense to them, but don't make sense to you. Maybe someone
absolutely,
has more Instagram followers, someone has a famous last name. There's so many different things, right?
absolutely.
How do you go through that?
I go to a
And how
forest.
many times has it happened? And how many times has it happened?
It's happened a lot to me.
Yeah.
It's happened a lot of times to me. Otherwise, I would have had a great body of work by now. I go to a forest. I go to nature and I just let it pass through.
Where do
It's
you go?
the healthiest way I've found to deal with it, to be honest.
What is called forest bathing, in the most superficial sense, or this is just more meditative?
Forest bathing, what is that?
That's the new word, no? When you go
Oh
to
my
a forest.
God, please don't make this a thing.
Yeah, it
No.
is a thing, by the way. It's called forest bathing.
I come from the land of the forest. I come from
I
Jharkhand. It
know.
literally means land of the forest. I grew up in mountains. And then these are the two things
Then
I
to be
connect
told
with. How
that
did
you're
they make this
forest
a thing?
bathing,
Kaveri, how did they make this a thing?
it is.
No.
It's, no. So what do you do? You go home, or you sort of go
Anywhere,
elsewhere?
anywhere. I love mountains. I love climbing mountains. I love nature. And I think nature is so healing.
Yeah.
Um, and so this is how I process it all. I in fact have a rule sometimes that 3 months, and then I need, maybe even if I have to get out of Bombay for 3 days, I will go to nature. Yeah, because if I don't process it, it will fester inside me, and
Yeah, and it's become
I
very
can't,
ugly.
yeah, and I can't allow that. So I think I found a way to process it healthily, but it still hurts.
Of course. What next for you, Prashansa?
I have 2 shows coming out. I can't talk much about it,
Excellent.
but I do have 2 shows coming out. I'm seen in a very different light. I'm playing a cop, and very
Nice.
interesting and very cool. And
Very
I
good.
have tried my best to bring a lot of vulnerability to her, and let's see if that translates.
No, it's so nice. We're living in a time when some of these supposedly off-kilter choices by women suddenly have transformed their lives. I mean, I see someone like Anusaya Gupta. For 15 years, she works in absolute anonymity, and then suddenly the world discovers her. Or you look at someone like Kani Kushruti, who's been working like you steadily over a period of time, and then suddenly something happens and, she becomes a phenomenon. So, I mean, it's not that it's the movies are so unkind as well. I mean, they can be kind to you. The industry can be kind to you. It's just you have to have the patience and the resilience.
Absolutely. And the industry has been kind to me.
Yeah,
Anyway, it has been kind to me, and I've worked with beautiful people. Always had a great crew to work with, whether it's Dahar with Rima Khakti or whether it's
yeah.
Mirzapur. Uh, so I'm very, very lucky and grateful that way that I've had that. It is kind, but come on, it shouldn't take so long.
So long.
Come on, I mean, look at the work they both of them have been doing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
It's
They've,
taken them so long.
it has taken them so long, and I think we need to talk about this. I think we need to talk about the fact that we need to give artists, good artists, more chances. At the end of the day, what works is good storytelling told by really good storytellers.
Good storytellers. Very
You can
important.
you can do whatever you want, but good storytelling done by good storytellers, it's irreplaceable. It's why even Mirzapur works. I mean, there was no star in the show in the first season, right?
Yeah.
But it
Nobody
was a good story told by good storytellers, and we've proven it again and again and again. So I don't
with
know
every season.
why it is not changing as much as it should change. Uh, they should be doing the bigger films and the shows, as well as doing the beautiful independent work, and it just needs more representation. And I think we should really, really, as um, people who like to watch them, talk about it.
Do you go home to the school? What is the name of the
Absolutely.
school that yeah,
My
what's the
mother
name
runs
of
a
the school?
school. She runs a school called Modern Public. Of course, I go to the school. I've done workshops with the kids. I
Right.
teach them. I work with them. I do talks with them, whatever they need. I love
Lovely.
working with young people. I love working with kids. I really enjoy it. And I feel if I can make a difference, uh, well, absolutely.
So wonderful talking to you, Prashansa. Really, you deserve all the praise, as I said at the beginning, and I
Thank
wish you a long career, which doesn't take so long to make you a phenomenon. I'm sure it will be much quicker than we expect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaveri. It was so lovely talking to you and so wholesome. Thank you for this interview.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.